All right, so the clip you see up there at the top, the guns and stuff, that's the image from Sergeant Willie Pete's video, Gun Hypocrisy, and I'm gonna kind of do somewhat of a response to that video. I've tried to do responses to his videos in the past, but it's just they're so long and there's so many different points that he makes, and he kind of answers his other questions and other videos, and I don't know. But this is a video that's simple, that's straightforward. Even though he does go all over the place a little bit in this one with his preconceived notions, but he's talking about the gun conspiracy, gun hypocrisy between, I guess, the whites, more conservative NRA types who apparently don't care about black people and guns and when things happen to them, and he makes a comparison or an argument that I just don't understand. To me, there's no logic in it when it comes to states' rights and the Constitution. But yeah, I'm about to do this quick response and refute some of this nonsense.
A little bit.
You can shoot it right.
Might be the only one, because I can't think of what the other ones are right now until it comes to me. But hypocrisy in the gun community. One of the biggest hypocritical things I've heard in the gun community is and I'll admit, I've heard one or two people actually acknowledge this when it actually gets put up forth on the table. And this is typically coming from the conservative side, which typically is the pro-gun side. For example, I remember when it came to Obamacare, right? Oh, we gotta get rid of Obamacare. Oh, it's reparations for slavery, right? Just dumbass Glenn Beck bullshit, right? What about states' rights? It's the state should have the right not to have Obamacare. It's the states' rights. States' rights all day. That's their fucking argument. However, when we get over to gun laws, we should have national reciprocity for a carry license for the whole United States of America. Right? Now, some people can say, oh, I'm comparing apples to oranges and Obamacare. Well, that's different, and that's something, and this is the Second Amendment. And somebody can make a weak-ass argument like that if they wanted to. But I'm saying, when you really look at it at face value for what it is, it's like shit you want. People go, oh, yeah, that should be national. I should be able to go across every state in the union, with my carry concealed permit. And they should all recognize it, right? So I should be able to go from California to New Jersey or New York. They should all recognize my federal, all-encompassing United States of America firearms permit, right? But yet you start talking about other areas, of, the government federally regulating or federally controlling or federally mandating, and all of a sudden, states' rights, right? And it's like, here you got Obamacare coming from a black man, states' rights. Even though the man's fucking biracial and he's half fucking white. But the gun community, they get on their conservative dumbass bullshit, right? I can say the same thing about when they tried to integrate the schools, right? They try to integrate the schools in the South and Arkansas and Mississippi and Virginia and all that shit. States' rights! States' rights! Right? But then when it comes to states' rights to regulate itself as it pertains to its own gun and carry laws, oh no. Oh no. It needs to be federally regulated, and I should be able to carry wherever the fuck I want, right? I mean, the hypocrisy of all of that is blatant. Hypocrisy of that is blatant. Now all of a sudden, states' rights go out the door. On the flip side, here's the hypocrisy.
All right, so you heard his tangent, his little rant about the hypocrisy from these his more preconceived notions of these white pro-gun, and he says that he's on the fence, he's involved, but in my experience, coming from a dark blue New York anti-gun governor Homo, instilled that that SAFE Act, which is completely unsafe and unreasonable for New York and no reason for us to have it. But he claims that there's this argument from the conservative right-wing whites NRA cat that's saying they want to go across state lines with their guns. I can say I've never heard that argument. Most individuals I talk to, I speak with, groups understand states' rights. They understand that they can't go to those places and do whatever, right? They understand that they can't go to New York with a 15-round clip. They understand that that's against the law. They it's not something to play around with, like you stated later on in the video. That's not something to stay around with. And the number one reason why I believe that, there's not this coalition of pro-gun advocates who are saying give us a federal gun license that lets us carry our concealed and carry permits across state lines, is, for one, I think that would only give ammunition to the anti-gun argument, the anti-gun liberal establishment. It would give them precedence to say, all right, so you want to go from Cali, the example you used, to Jersey, to New York, Chicago, with your concealed carry permits. All right, you can have that, but the trade-off is going to be, we're going to have a federal background check system. We're going to tax your bullets. We're going to limit your, like, you know what I mean? Like, that, if they federalize a license to go from state to state, that only gives liberals ammunition to say, the bull crap, this is just a common sense gun law, right? We're going to have some common sense restrictions. If you want to go to states that we say, the cities, these liberal progressive states, Chicago, New York, Cali, they say in their states they don't want these guns because it's an issue here, and we want our people to be defenseless in situations, against people robbing them or harming them. We're going to say, all right, cool, you can have that, but again, you got to follow these guidelines. You got to do the universal background checks. We're going to penalize you because we got to get some money for this, so we're going to tax you on your bullets. And it just will give ammunition too much power to this federal government. Like, you go to the federal government, cry, say, give me, give me, give me. They're going to want something in return. And that's why I'm saying this argument that you're trying to say, which I've never heard of. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I've just never heard of it in my circles, in the pro-gun advocate area that I'm in. I haven't heard that argument, because I think most of these people have common sense, and have critical thinking skills, and they understand that, there's always a trade-off. So if you were to ask for this statewide open carry policy, it's only going to come with more regulations and more fines and more taxes and more things that are going to hurt people who don't have the money to abide by them. So I'm not buying that narrative. I'm not buying this whole, again, I'm not saying it doesn't exist in your space. I'm just not buying that argument because it doesn't make any sense to me, because it would just give liberals ammunition to call for all the restrictions that they want. If you want a statewide federal gun license to carry your concealed and carry permits, I'm just not buying that. Now, he claims that the argument, it would be a lame argument to point out that you are comparing apples to oranges, right? There is a constitutional right to bear arms, right? There is no constitutional right for the federal government to supply health care. So for the person using that argument saying, you're comparing apples to oranges, they're correct. There is no constitutional right to provide you with health care or education or any of those things. There is, however, an amendment says, you have the right to bear arms. So again, anybody using that argument, to me, it makes perfect sense. Especially since the healthcare argument, you bearing arms doesn't affect or hurt anybody else, in the sense that you don't have to pay for their bullets. You don't have to, it doesn't affect the other individual. Whereas healthcare, the haves are supplying, healthcare for the have-nots. They're being taxed for that. And I'm not even talking about the rich people. I'm talking about middle class and upper, lower middle class people are subsidizing people who don't work or don't participate in the system healthcare. I don't think you don't have a right to do that. Another fail is the fact that younger men and older men are subsidized. Well, young people are subsidizing older people's health care, right? That's one narrative. Not to mention, young men are subsidizing females in general health care. Their rates are going to be higher and charge more, even though they're less likely to use the insurance, and the tests and the things that men go through don't cost nearly as much as it costs for females. So I think that is a big jump, right? One is, there's a constitutional right that doesn't affect anybody financially, policy-wise. The other is no constitutional right to do. You have no right to force people to buy health care or federalize health care. It's not in the Constitution. There's nothing in there saying that this is the responsibility of the taxpayers, and it doesn't just affect the taxpayers. It affects the person who also hasn't paid insurance because their rates are higher to subsidize other people's who aren't paying for it themselves. All right, now he goes into the hypocrisy of the liberals, which I didn't really catch and understand it, but I'm gonna try to listen again real quick right now while you hear it and try to make sense of what he was saying.
Right. Newtown parents coming into the state of New Jersey. Oh, my poor little child. He was shot in the blaze of machine gun fire, and we want you to reduce your capacity to 10 rounds. Right? And it's like, now, we already know Christie vetoed all that shit. But I'm saying, we want you to reduce your capacity to 10 rounds because, save one life, and lives are valuable and everything else like that. We get all that, right? However, right, nobody's saying states' rights at that point. Nobody's saying, hey, I'm sorry for your loss, parents from Connecticut, but you're from Connecticut. You need to focus on what you can do in your own state. Okay, a lot of gun laws were passed in Connecticut, so much so that the manufacturers of the guns in Connecticut moved the fuck out. Okay, mission accomplished for your state. You did your job, right? But then, right, here's the funny part. Here's hypocrisy. The same people that will bring in, Connecticut, Newtown parents to advocate for new gun control in the state of New Jersey will be the same people that when Drake went to the Supreme Court and you had the 19 states that supported, I think Louisiana, Wyoming, and there was like a whole bunch of other ones, supported the gun, right to carry in New Jersey. What did those same people that were brought in the Newtown people from a different state, what did they jump up and say? They jumped up and said, they need to butt out. Wyoming needs to butt out. Louisiana needs to butt out. They need to butt out of New Jersey's business. But yet, how come they wasn't saying that to the Newtown parents? Like, this isn't your fight. You need to butt out. No, instead they go up there with tears and handkerchiefs and, and I hate to sound, insensitive. You know what I'm saying? But, I got my skepticism of the whole Newtown thing when I saw that YouTube video of the daddy who's smiling when his little girl's supposed to be dead. And then you got, of course, the guy that ran out the back of the building in fatigues, but then they let him go. And I was actually watching television when that happened. I actually watched the television of the guy who ran out the back of the school, and then they let him go. And I'm like, who's this guy? In fatigues. But anyway, whole different topic, whole different point. Okay?
Okay. I too also have my bias or non-belief of what happened with Sandy Hook. I mean, not just the guy running out the back of the building, the number of how it's a school of 200-300 kids, yet all in the news loops, all you saw was the same 11 kids with their shoulders touching each other back to back. I'm like, this is a whole school? What is this, a remedial class or something like that? Where are all the rest of the children at? We only seen a handful of kids. If you look at any school where there's a fire drill or anything like that, you see hundreds of kids sitting outside, right? Not just the same loop of 11 kids touching each other back to back. And what does the school only consist of? Those 11 kids and the 26 that were killed or whatever? I just don't know. I do have my biases of what happened with that situation as well. But I don't get that clip of the whole bias from the liberals. Like, I don't understand what he's saying. I listened like 3 or 4 times and I still don't get the point he was trying to make. From my understanding, liberals aren't with the whole pro states' right narrative. Like, they want they want to give more power to the federal government because they don't think that states have the ability to police or know what's best for their own people. So no liberal would be about, states' rights, or saying, they don't mind using what happened in other states. It comes to their states, they use it as ammunition to block rights for people to have guns in their states. So again, I'm not getting that narrative that you're trying to put forward for the hypocrisy. I don't understand it at all. Liberals aren't gonna be on some states' rights stuff. They want the federal government to have more power and more control. They don't want states to have their own. For example, what happened in Michigan with affirmative action at the University of Michigan. Liberals were upset. Like, how dare Michigan have a vote and say that we don't want to use gender or sex, race, sex, gender as a as a decision factor in getting admissions to schools. Liberals don't like that. So, they're against the states' rights narrative. So I just don't get the example that you used.
Is gun stuff. Like, what's miscellaneous? Stuff that's going on now. Should I talk about racism? Oh no, don't talk about racism. We white people, we support you. We support you, New Jersey gun laws. We support everything you say, but oh god damn it, man, when you start talking about that white racism shit and white supremacy, that white guilt just comes down on me, and I don't want to hear that shit. Why can't you just talk about guns, just keep the guns? Why do you gotta come through and start talking about how the white man's holding black people down and shit? God damn it, right? They don't want me talking about that shit. But I like realize something, about black people and guns, and it kind of like illustrates just kind of how racist America is, in terms, and I'm saying, black people are significantly affected by this shit. It's like me, I'm a black guy, I'm pro Second Amendment, I'm all for, black people having more arms, right? Since we, have this economic problem in the black community, right? And, basically, without an economy, you can't control your own youth. You can't control the behavior in your own community, right? Which, I go on my spiel about white supremacy controlling everything and wanting to keep the black community in this fucked up state so that the black community cannot challenge them, and, patriarchy versus patriarchy and all that bullshit. I could go all and talk about all that all day. But I'm saying, it's like you got the Trayvon Martin case, right? And you have no idea how many black people, when I start talking, I'm pro Second Amendment, I'm a black dude. You have no idea how many black, if you carry a gun, the white people will shoot you, the white police officers will shoot you. Or you'll get shot like Trayvon Martin. It's like they scared to carry now because of, the idea, the proverbial black man with a wallet, and he gets shot 52 times. So they're like, oh, you'll get shot. And it's like, that doesn't even make sense, because I'm like, if white America is racist, right? It's just racist. And they shooting black people with wallets. You know what I mean? I get the point, like the idea is, oh, they'll shoot you because now you have a real gun. But I'm like, well, if they're already shooting us with wallets, like, what the fuck does it matter? I mean, shit, at least, I might be able to shoot back or something, die in the blaze of glory. But like, they get on this, we'll shoot you with, they'll shoot you, because you have a gun on you, which is, a very, very much a conversation when it comes to, black people with guns, young black men carrying guns for defensive purposes. Like I said before, it kills me. You got Ted Nugent running around, the black people this, black people that, acting like this motherfucker this motherfucker lives like way out in the northern peninsula of fucking Michigan and shit. Like as though he encounters black people on a daily fucking basis. You don't encounter black people on a daily fucking basis. The black people who are living in urban environments are the ones who are most likely to be the victims of crime. Yes, perpetrated by other black people. Because what do you think is going to happen when you got a situation of people living in conditions of poverty? Okay, no jobs, no economic opportunities. That's like the freaking recipe for, you know, crime and burglars and carjackings and everything else. It doesn't matter that the people are black. They're all down there struggling, trying to survive, and if they got to take out the next man, that's what the fuck they're going to do. You take two lions, you put them in a cage, you remove the water, you remove the food, and you come back in 2 weeks, there's only going to be one lion standing there and the carcass of another lion. And that's essentially what white supremacy does. But let me not go down that route. Let me go in a different direction. You know, but it's like, and then I'll give.
A lot was said in that 4 minutes. A lot of different points were made, but I know one of the points was that the fact that some black people are scared to carry their legally carry concealed permits because they think they're gonna get shot by police. Even historically, older black men in my family have always been, you know, carrying guns, and well, the ones who live in Jersey or if I go to the South, they've always carried without a problem. It wasn't an issue. In fact, some of them had to carry because they came from segregated racial Souths where, you know, they had to protect themselves against other, you know, white men who would try to harm them. So I don't know that narrative. I do know when I went for my pistol permit, my class for pistol permit, the white dude who a lot of the other older black men didn't like. They thought he was racist or prejudiced or whatever. They didn't like the way he spoke. But they said, well, he said that, you know, this is a guy who taught, like, the city of Buffalo. Like, he taught them how to shoot. Like, he is the instructor for the police force here in Buffalo, New York, right? He taught them how to shoot. He's an ex-officer himself, and he stated that if he get pulled over with his concealed and carry, he's not, when they ask him if he has a gun in the vehicle, he's not going to reach for the gun. In fact, he said, which I don't think no black person's going to get away with, but he said he's going to drive, like, you know what, I have a gun, I'm not reaching for it, this is my information, here's my permit, but I'm not reaching for my gun, you know, while I'm in the vehicle. And I'm not letting you, you know, reach over and grab it from me. I can follow you to the police department. This is a white guy who teaches police how to shoot, you know, who is ex-law enforcement himself, saying that he's not reaching for his gun if he gets pulled over for a cop. Even if they ask him to give it to him, he's not doing it. I remember a situation happened to me when I got pulled over years back. I lived in a different town, but it was a Buffalo cop, which is like had me puzzled, like the jurisdiction. But they have 5 miles to go into other jurisdictions. I think they even changed that rule to where now they can go into other towns or whatever. But like the reason why they don't pull you over in other towns is because they have to share that money, that revenue for whatever ticket you get with that other state, with that other town or city, whatever. So they don't like doing it. They'll let you go. But I had a knife on my that I had in my where my cigarette lighter goes, and I took it out to open something in the vehicle, and I forgot to put it back, and I had it sitting like in the middle between the seats, and like as I'm getting pulled over, I'm like, you know, the cops come into my passenger side window, and he's like, you know, did you put that there so I can see it? I'm like, because it dawned on me as he got out the car, like, you know, it's right there out and open, and it was a stiletto. It was like a pop-out knife that's illegal in New York, and you know you're not supposed to have them, whatever. And which he could have took me to jail for when he didn't. But he asked me as I'm walking to the window, he's like, "Oh, so did you put that there so I can see it?" I'm like, "Yeah," even though I didn't. I was trying to put it back where it was out in the open, but I didn't want to touch it as he's coming to my window, so I left it there. But I definitely understand what the instructor of the pistol permit class was saying is don't touch no weapons, don't reach or give him anything. Okay, again, this is a white dude who's involved in law enforcement telling him that he wouldn't do it. So I understand why a black person definitely would say, you know, I'm not going to not carry, but I'm not going to reach for my gun. Either I'm going to say, you know, you go out to come here and get it, or I'll follow you to the police station and we can have a conversation there, because it's not wise to reach for your gun or even to give it to him you know, in that circumstance. I put it like this: one old school dude taught me, who been in jail for whatever amount of years, and he had a felony. He's not allowed to have guns, and he lived in a messed up environment where they were doing home invasions. And he said, you know, I'd rather be caught with one than without one. So to your point about black men not wanting to carry their guns in a situation, is like, I'd rather be caught with one than without. I'm not gonna not carry my gun for self-defense from the fear that I'm gonna get shot by a cop when I get pulled over for having one in the car, even though it's a legal gun. I'm going to still carry my gun regardless.
NRA app in my phone, and I got the notification. It was like, boop, and it talking about the PA mom, right? I forget, Shayna Allen, I think that's her name. Pennsylvania mom comes into New Jersey, right? And I'm actually more pissed off at whoever the fucking instructors were who gave her the license and didn't say this is no good in New Jersey. I'm more pissed off at the people who did not instruct them. Like when I got my Utah carry concealed permit, non-resident Utah carry concealed permit, before I couldn't carry in Pennsylvania, thanks to, you know, what her name is, Attorney General Kane, Miss Kane. Right now I can no longer carry in Pennsylvania because I have a non-resident permit, not a resident permit. You know, I was informed, like, this is no good in New Jersey, even though you're a resident of New Jersey. Like, I mean, it's kind of like a no duh, you know, but, you know, not informing these people. I mean, personally, I mean, I do find fault with her and accountability with her because of her woeful ignorance. You know, guns and gun laws is not something to play with. You know what I mean? And I mean, just, you know, oh yeah. And then not only that, but she fucked up, and even the judge said that, the cop that arrested her said that. She fucked up when she opened her mouth and said, yes, I have a gun in the car. Dumb. You know, I mean, you know, I'm even nervous about doing that, even when if I'm in a state where I'm perfectly legal. I'm like, oh, did the gun laws change overnight? You know what I mean? Like what happened, you know, with the Utah permit in Pennsylvania? They did that shit in secrecy. You know what I mean? If I wasn't one of those people that goes to USA Carry all the time and looks it up all the time, I wouldn't know. I would have walked into Pennsylvania one day and a cop would have stopped me or something like that, and, oh, officer, I have my permit. And the officer would have been like, nope, well, actually, that was overturned, you know, Friday, and it's now Tuesday, and you're fucked. You don't even know. Like, you don't even know when they fucking change the laws and shit like that. Like, you expect it to change and there to be some glorious announcement. You know, you hear about it. Maybe it's controversy around it. People are going to talk about it. The gun community does not make awareness of that. You know, other than the NRA, and I guess that's where you find your information. But you think that, like, this would be topic of discussions and forums. And this is one of the things I don't like about the gun community. Because if it doesn't affect them, they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. If it doesn't affect them, they don't care. But yet they'll sit there and start talking about, that was the other hypocrisy thing that came to me. They'll sit there and then they'll talk about, you know, oh, why can't we have reciprocity? But when shit goes down in some other state, right? When shit goes down in New Jersey and they trying to do this and trying to do that, right? You know, it's like people don't care, you know, and it's like, it seems strange because it's like, well, like, in other words, like, to go back to Shayna Allen, what the leaders of the gun community have recognized is that every fight is the fight that you want to fight, because every fight will set new precedents, set new standards, and hopefully it goes to the Supreme Court, and then it's like you're forcing the Supreme Court to make a decision, which thinking about it, I don't think that they're going to, because it'll fall back to states' rights. It'll fall back to states' rights. You know, this whole idea of keeping bear arms and the vague ambiguity of it, right? You know, they don't want to interpret that. They want to leave that alone. So, you know,
Alright, so he brought up the Shayna Allen situation. And I'm glad you brought that up because in my experience and from what I've seen all over the media, and I'm subscribed to all of the black, Dr. Boyce Watkins and his whole, the black intellectual crew, all those leftists over there who aren't necessarily liberal, but they are leftists when it comes to policies. In fact, they actually hold Obama or other liberals accountable because they don't find that they're liberal enough or leftist enough in their worldviews. But I've seen that segment of comments and to the Shannon story, and it's like their narrative was, oh, where are Fox News at now? Where is the NRA at now? Like their whole argument was they should be out there protecting and fighting for her. And Sergeant Willie Pete, you claim that the first thing you saw in your app was that. Now, personally, I saw, the Glenn Beck's, the more libertarian news channels and spots on Fox News, and even seeing, I think Sean Hannity and Fox and Friends, they covered this female story. So while these, I'm a leftist, but I'm not a liberal because liberals aren't leftist enough for me, they were all, where's the white Republican NRA at now for this woman to support her? And they were there. They just obviously didn't see the media or see the coverage of it, but they were there. Ironically, where now this is the funny thing, you got leftists, pro-feminists, all that, are like, where's the Republican whites at now for this woman? But where were the feminists at for her? Where were the black people at for her? There are black gun organizations, they're not as big as the NRA, but there are several other black or minority, even probably all women gun organizations. No one asks where they were at about this black woman who did break the law. Like, she did break the law. Like, we can't argue that. She was uninformed or, didn't know what she was doing, and she broke the law. And I'm going to expound on, like you said in the video, that's not something to play with. But anyways, I find it odd, though, that, black people are looking to the people that they think are against them and don't like them and hate them. They're looking to them for support on the gun issue, but there's no black men or black women, organizations sticking up or defending her or marching or, having rallies saying this is horrible. This is a single mom or two. I don't know if she's a single mom or not, but this is a mother of two children, right? And she's being falsely, not falsely. She's being arrested for something she did, but it's, I guess you can argue it is unjust because it's not like she's a criminal or she knew what she was doing. She did have some ignorance in the situation, but it's just crazy how you acknowledge that the NRA did cover it, whereas other black people are saying, why aren't the NRA and Fox News and the libertarians who believe in the states' rights conversation more than the conservatives do, why aren't they up there speaking about it? And they are. I've seen several segments on the topic and what's going on with her. And yet, but black people are still trying to delegate, her safety or her defense. Like, you're not doing it, but you want to delegate it to the NRA or to the white conservative people who you claim don't like you. How does that work? How does that look? That we don't even have it in our own self to defend our own people, our own women in a situation like that. We got to look out to other people, say, you got to address that because, again, where are the feminist groups to defend her and back her up? Where are all the black, liberals at defending her for being arrested, something like that? They're non-existent. Now, and to the point about her being, yeah, she is ignorant. Like I said, in New York, we got the SAFE Act, and, you're claiming that, the gun rights people don't do all this stuff, and I'm like, that's not true at all. Like, when the whole situation was going down, and you said, and to your last point, which I'll let you play it, I'll play it and let you finish before I respond completely to that narrative, but, in New York, there were several people from the South and Atlanta and other places who, in Texas and what have you, the Glenn Beck who you criticized, who was awesome. We got to get our people out of New York. And the point I wanted to make too about how you use the example of the school situation where it was states' rights, and once the states' rights trumped the individual right over integration in schools, what did white people do? They left out of those public schools and went into the burbs. they moved out, and that's exactly what I think most gun pro, people who live in liberal states are going to do. They're not going to stay there. They want the right to bear arms and do all those things and have 15 bullets in their gun and not be taxed for bullets and all the other nonsense that California is trying to do and Connecticut and New York. They're going to go to states, red states, that allow them to do that. So there you go again, an example of, they understand states' rights to the point where they know they can't beat, what's going on. They're going to leave. Shoot, that's one of the reasons why I would leave New York. It's, if I was going to move anywhere else, it would not be another dark blue state. It would not be Cali. It would not be Detroit. It would not be Washington. It would be somewhere where they have lax gun laws, where I could have my AR with my 30-round mag, and I could have my silencer. All the things I want. I hate the heat. I hate tornadoes and bugs. But if it was an opportunity, an economic opportunity other than, guns, I'm picking a state like Alabama or somewhere outside of Georgia where I can have my free reign with the guns that I want. I literally would do that, because after the SAFE Act happened, that really pushed me to the limit of how much, I used to be the one that I love New York and I love my city and I love our swag and our attitude and our how we're different than everybody else when it comes to how we carry ourselves. Freak all that. This state sucks balls. New York City, which I don't live in, is a big ass rat trap, and I could never live in it. And I don't understand how people want to come there. It's freaking stop and frisk, and all that nonsense is like a damn prison to me. You can't move freely and do what you want to do. So I could never. That's one of the reasons why I would leave. All right, just real quick though, to the point about her. I can't blame the instructor. I can't blame. And that's a word you don't like, right? That's that personal responsibility that you don't like about guns laws. You're correct. You can't play with those things. In New York, we had several people traveling here that were white people, on hunting expeditions and trips, and they were carrying their 15 clip mags when we're only allowed to carry 7, and they got arrested for it. And they got, they tried to make an example out of these people, So the one guy got caught selling an AR like right after the law was passed. So there was a period of a grace period where we got a year to register ARs, and then we got if you didn't comply within that year, you're gonna, if you get arrested, get caught, they're gonna have to prove to the courts that you didn't know or something happened where you couldn't get it registered in time. So I'm not buying this narrative that the laws changing. They do happen, because the SAFE Act happened overnight at the bill of the night, and none of the Republicans could have voted against it or whatever. He did some dirt when he passed it in New York. And there was a couple snake Republicans. Well, I'm gonna address that too, so you don't make the distinction between, because you kept conflating conservative Republicans, and they're not the same. If anybody's in that group, they're not the same. What the hell happened to my picture up there? I don't make that. I mean, there's a difference between the Tea Partiers, the Republicans, and conservatives. In my opinion, the conservatives have more of a value system where they're not going to compromise for whatever. Whereas the Republicans, or what many want to call the rhinos or the established Republicans, in context, the Chris Christies of the world, is they'll compromise and they'll break and they'll bend on policy in order to get things done, which is what Chris Christie has done in New Jersey. That's why he doesn't get any love from the Republicans. That's exactly what Mitt Romney did when he was in Massachusetts. When you're a Republican in a predominantly blue state and you win, you got to do those things. But I'm saying there is a clear distinction between, and you conflate them at the end of the video, which is odd because in the beginning you make a clear distinction between, the white conservative Republican pro-gun individual and the liberal who's anti-gun. You make the clear distinction, but later on you kind of conflate the two and act as if, when you talked about the hypocrisy on the liberal side, the states' rights, where white liberals don't care about states' rights. They want the federal government to have more power. But when it comes to the point of her not following, not knowing or being ignorant, that's partly on her. I mean, I can't blame anybody else for her traveling across the state line with a gun. Like, that's just common sense. If you watch any local news and you've seen, just watching the news in New York, how many people got arrested who don't live here just because they were traveling through the state, and these are white people who were traveling, going on hunting trips and shooting expeditions, and they got caught with their 15 clips and they got arrested for it. So I'm not buying this narrative that, you know, the gun community doesn't inform us or let us know, because I'm subscribed to several groups on Facebook that were, you know, up in arms and upset about what was going on in New York. Even the Glenn Beck types were making a point about, you know, getting the hell out of New York and going to Texas and getting his people that work in New York and relocating them to Texas because of some of these ridiculous rules and laws that's going on in New York right now. So I'm not buying that there's a matter of personal responsibility, but I'm not seeing this thing, even because I even have you know, white friends who live in Jersey who are pro-gun, who are ranting and raving about, you know, what's going on there. So and they're in communities and environments where people live in other states, so there's going to be a conversation and a discussion about it. That's up to you, though, to be involved in those conversations.
Every fight is the fight that you want to fight, because every fight will set new precedents, set new standards, and hopefully it goes to the Supreme Court, and then it's like you're forcing the Supreme Court to make a decision, which thinking about it, I don't think they're going to, because it'll fall back to states' rights. It'll fall back to states' rights. You know, this whole idea of keeping bear arms and the vague ambiguity of it, right? You know, they don't want to interpret that. They want to leave that alone. So, you know, even though I give the NRA kudos for taking up the Shayna Allen case, I'm kind of like, you know, they're using it as a way to further their agenda, which I don't have a particular problem with per se, but be it that she's a black woman and, you know, the whole conservative shitting on, you know, black men, shitting on black women, I'm like, kind of like, you know, again with the, you know, the whole white people, Sandy Hook and the 26 children and the teacher, right? Shedding tears all over the place. But when it comes to the type of violence that's going on in Chicago, you know, every weekend, you know, which is, you know, totally unrelated, but has to do with the narco economy and white supremacy and racism and discrimination and economic disparities and all that other shit, white people don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? So the idea that all of a sudden, you know, the NRA and whoever has had this amazing change of heart, and white people collectively now suddenly care about what's really going on with, Shayna Allen. You know what I mean? Did I say Shayna Shaw? That's a porn star. If I said Shayna Shaw, she got a fat ass for a fucking white girl. But anyway, Shayna Allen. You know, like, the idea that they care about fucking Shayna Allen, that's bullshit to me. It's total bullshit. She got, 3 black boys? Oh yeah, 3 black boys that are going to turn into, you know, the person that you're, you know, fantasizing in your head as a carry concealed white gun owner, you know, that's going to rob you 3 o'clock in the morning while you decide to go to the ATM. First off, like Chris Rock said, ain't nobody going to the ATM at 3 o'clock in the morning for some good shit. But nothing positive is coming out and going to the ATM at 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you going to the ATM at 3 o'clock in the morning for? What do you need $300 at 3 o'clock in the morning at the ATM if you ain't planning on going to, get you some nookie, get you some ass or some shit like that. Go to the strip club. Ain't nothing positive, you know. Oh, you know, I gotta have my concealed carry permit or my concealed carry weapon because of, those damn niggers might come out of the bushes and rob me, right? Because that's what they do, you know, just totally ignoring economic disparities and all that other stuff and white supremacy and all that other shit, you know, just totally ignoring that. But like, to me, it's kind of bullshit, you know. Oh, now all of a sudden they care, you know. So, you know, I'm torn, because like, as a pro-gun person, like, yeah, I want them to support Shayna Allen. I want it, but again, you got to look at it for you know, is it right that they really care? No, it's not that they really care. It's about, you know, furthering the agenda. I still believe that the old sentiments and the old feelings and the old classic shit that was just there last week is still fucking there. Granted, it might be a transitioning and everything, and you know, you got Coley on Noir, and they're recognizing that they got to diversify. The crazy thing is, the NRA is actually doing what the Conservative Party, the Republicans, should have been doing, but instead of running around with Southern strategy and they're gonna come and take your shit and you know, all this is, you know, going to lazy black folks somewhere. You know, that's what the Conservative Party pushes, which is why black people don't fuck with them. But I personally believe that black people need to, you know, boycott the Democratic Party until they get what they really need, which is...
Alright, so he goes into this narrative about, to me, this argument to me is more emotional than rational or logical or anything. Is like, you know, I'm glad that, you know, the white NRA, you know, Republican leaning conservative individuals are defending Shannon Allen, but I feel some type of way because I don't think they really care about her in particularly, right? Meanwhile, like I said earlier, you have no feminist female organizations defending her. You have no black male group, you know, organizations defending her. But you do see them pointing fingers, again, delegating the responsibility to come to her defense and say, well, you guys over there, you know. So it's not about the race, it's not about the gender, but it's about what we have in common, which is guns, and that's what they're defending their rights on. You know, they're rallying behind her, especially if she's a card-carrying member. The NRA does supposed to represent you if you're a part of the NRA, and if you take certain gun classes, you're automatically already in. You're automatically a member if you pay for like the what is it? I think it's like 100-something hours gun course or whatever, where you do half of the course on with the gun and the other half is in the classroom after you take your first, after you already get your permit. You know, this is something separate. So I'm not really understanding. I mean, so let's recap again, right? So you got, you know, the pro gun, right, NRA, you know, defending her to her defense, you know, putting it out there in the media, letting people champion and rally around her, right? Yet you have no black organization, no black people, and there are black gun groups out there and all that. They're not defending her. They're not, you know, coming to her defense. But your problem is, well, do they really care about her? Do they really, you know, are they just trying to further their agenda, or do they really care? Like that's some emotional stuff. Like, if I was in her position, I wouldn't care if they cared. I would care if they do what they're supposed to do, especially if I'm a member of the NRA. So on one hand, you got no black people defending you, no feminist groups, no women groups out there saying this is unfair, this is unjust, this shouldn't happen, she should have the right to bear arms. You know, it's not like she's a criminal, she was just crossing the state line. She was ignorant, yeah, give her some a slap on the wrist, give her some probation, give her something. Don't give her jail time for this, because it's not like she did it with intention, right? None of that's coming from, you know, the liberal media or non-liberal blacks who are also, because they're anti-gun themselves and they support policies and positions that, you know, put black people in places where they don't have the ability to get guns and protect their own families and property, right? So, you know, like, how could I? Honestly, I would not care if the NRA didn't care about the race issues. Think about it. The NRA isn't going with her race. They're not going with her gender. They're going with the fact that we have a common, you know, goal or a common interest, which is our conceal and carry and our guns rights, and we're going to defend you based on that. So it has nothing to do with her gender, right, or her race. It has everything to do with the fact that she owns guns. Now, I'm going to just make a guess and have this epiphany put out there. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to just assume, let's say, you know, she is, you know, she's a pro-gun person and has her Second Amendment and exercises her right to carry, but she still voted for Obama, right? She still vote for liberal politicians that, you know, end up putting policies in place that restrict black people from being able, because, you know, when they put these laws in and these restrictions and these taxes and these fines and these regulations, you know, who gets hurt the most? Black people do. Who gets put in positions where they can't defend or protect their own families and properties? Black people. That's why I can't understand, period, how any black person could be on this anti-gun narrative when we're the ones who live in communities that get, home invasions in broad daylight and all that nonsense and stuff like that, where the whole family gets killed. The only time that happens in the white communities when one of them are killing their own people, or the kid went crazy, or dad is doing something stupid and it kills the whole family. They don't really have to worry about outsiders coming in just massacring the whole family like on some law-abiding citizen stuff. But that happens in our community all the time from our own people, and yet we don't even have the ability in some cases to have the guns and the weaponry to protect ourselves. So honestly, I wouldn't care. Like, what is it? You have a bunch of black people who care based on race, and a bunch of women who care based on your gender. But they're not doing anything about it, and they're not voicing anything or marching or protesting or anything like that. But then you have the group, who supposedly doesn't like you for those reasons, because of your gender, because of your race, but they're defending you because you are a gun owner. That's all that matters to me. Like, to me, that would be some emotional stuff like, I thank you for defending me and bringing light to my situation, but I'm going to decline your support because you don't really care about me. You just care about your agenda. Like, who would do that? Like, I'm sure Miss Shayna, whoever she is, her name, she appreciates the love and the outlook she's getting, and I wonder how she does feel, probably understanding or coming into the if she is this progressive, voting for liberal politicians and voting for policies that hurt black people from protecting themselves. Or if she would have a second thought, or I might have to go do my research now and go see where does she stand on these conversations now, because in fact black people largely vote for these policies like the one that got her in trouble. Coming into their state, black people largely support these ridiculous gun restrictions and gun laws, even though they hurt us the most because we don't have the ability to protect ourselves and protect our own property. So I just think that argument is so lame. It's like you're glad they're sticking up for her, but on the other fence, you feel some type of way because you don't think they really care. Caring doesn't really matter. Do what you're supposed to do. Support me because I'm a member of your organization, or I'm a common pro-gun person like you. Let's support each other on that issues instead. Forget race and forget gender in this segment. Now, I didn't understand, like, in the beginning of the video, he made a clear distinction between, the conservative right-wing, pro-gun people, and then what the Democrats do, but he didn't break it about race. He just said Democrats. He didn't, sum it up to, white liberals, right? But later on, he makes his, when it was coming to the female in Pennsylvania, he goes, do they really care about her, as a whole? Like he said, as a whole. So now you're making it about the, white people as a whole, instead of is the white pro-gun owners caring about her, because the white liberals in the media, they are in sound step with prohibiting her from having a gun in the first place. And in the back of their mind, they're like, that's what she gets. She's trying to be like those white conservatives, NRA people. She shouldn't have a gun, right? Why does she have a gun? So I don't see how you made that, conflate the two the same. Like, you made a distinction in the beginning, kind of, sort of, even though the right side was based on race, whereas the left side was just, the liberal hypocrisy, which I didn't understand that part of your video. But you talked about a clear distinction between two different views. But then at the end of the video, when it comes to do they really care about her, there was no distinction. And I'm like, why would the white liberals care about that? Why would they defend that? Why would they get in that when they're for policies that stop her from even being in that position in the first place? They support policies that wouldn't that's the reason why she's in jail, is because of them wanting people with guns from coming into their state. Okay, they did that, so why would they care? I don't see how you made that correlation to group everything all into one boat there, but then make not clear distinctions, but you made somewhat of a distinction in the beginning of your video, where you talked about the difference between the conservative NRA person as opposed to the liberal. Again, which you didn't point out race when you said that. You just said you know, the liberal hypocrisy. But I don't know. That's my video.